इमाम रज़ा या इमाम रज़ा अस्सलाम 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 अस्सलाम
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Youth Corner with Jafri Sisters. I'm Marissa Jafri.
And I'm Ariba Jack.
आज बहुत खास दिन है जो कि ईद का दिन है. आप सबको ये दिन मुबारक हो. We would like to start off by wishing you and all of your family members Eid Mubarak.
May the blessings of Allah keep both your hearts and your homes joyous and happy. In the Islamic lunar calendar, Eid al-Adha falls on the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah and lasts for 3 days.
This is the second of two Islamic holidays celebrated worldwide each year, the other being Eid al-Fitr, and considered the whole year of the two. And the most fun part is we get Eid. Did you get Eid? I didn't.
No, Rusta, we don't get Eid on Eid al-Adha. This Eid is about sacrifice and giving. Eid al-Adha in Arabic means Feast of the Sacrifice, or as we say in Urdu, Eid al-Qurban.
No, but I'm the youngest. I should get Eid on all 5 Eids. On Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Ghadir, Eid al-Bahila. Oh yeah, and Eid al-Zahra too. We will discuss the significance of Eid further, but first let's start with the beautiful Munajat.
Today we have Alize Jafri online with us all the way from Boston. She is 7 years old and she recites very well, mashallah. Let's hear it.
करम मांगती हूँ अता मांगती हूँ इलाही मैं तुझसे दुआ मांगती हूँ करम मांगती सदकाए खैरुल वरा मांगती हूँ इलाही मैं तुझसे दुआ मांगती हूँ करम मांगती हूँ अता मांगती हूँ इलाही मैं तुझसे दुआ मांगती हूँ इलाही हमेशा दो मसरूर रखना बलाओं से हमको सदा दूर रखना परेशानियाँ हमको गहरे हुए हैं परेशानियों से पनाह मांगती हूँ करम मांगती हूँ अता मांगती हूँ इलाही मैं तुझसे दुआ मांगती
MashaAllah, Alize, that was such a nice dua. Eid al-Adha is called the Greater Eid because, as we mentioned earlier, this Eid is about sacrificing in the path of Allah. It is also obligatory to share the meat of the sacrificed animal in 3 equivalent parts, for relatives, friends, and for less unfortunate.
The celebration has a clear message of devotion, kindness, and equality. It is said that the meat will not reach Allah, nor will the blood, but what reaches Him is the devotion of the devotee.
We are very lucky to have Brother Hasan Abid with us online. Let's hear some words of wisdom. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Hasan.
We are very excited to have you on our show. I would like to ask you, what is the significance of Eid al-Adha?
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, to start to talk about the question of what is the significance of Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha is one of the greatest Eids of Islam, just as Eid al-Fitr is, that comes after Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan. We have the celebration of Eid al-Adha, which comes on the date of the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. And according to the hadith, this is the day that that divine commandment came down for Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam to sacrifice his son Nabi Ismail, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. You all know the event of how Nabi Ibrahim sees that dream where he is slaughtering his son Ismail. And now the day of Eid al-Adha is so significant for us because it has a lot of lessons that we can learn and apply in our daily lives. For example, you can see that one of the lessons is the tawakkul, the belief, the strength that Nabi Ibrahim has in Allah, and he shows that by fulfilling this commandment, by not going astray from the commandment, but making sure he fulfills the commandment that Allah has given. That's one lesson that we can learn. That look at the tawakkul, look at the trust, look at the ita'at that Nabi Ibrahim shows to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by being ready to sacrifice his son Nabi Ismail. So now, according to the traditions, the hadith and the Quranic ayat, is that when Nabi Ibrahim sees this dream now, he has to go and tell his son Nabi Ismail. And the Quranic ayat goes as such, where Nabi Ibrahim comes to Nabi Ismail alayhi salam, and he says, "O my son, surely I have seen in a dream that I should sacrifice you. Consider it, what do you consider it?" he says. "Consider it then what you see." He said, "Oh," and now Ismail, Nabi Ismail alayhi salam responds, "O my prophet, O my father, do what you are commanded." He says, "O my father, do what Allah has commanded you. And if Allah pleases, you will find me of the patient ones." You'll see that I have sabr, I have patience. This is another lesson we can learn from the significance of Eid al-Adha. That when Allah commands His Prophet, Nabi Ibrahim, to sacrifice his son Ismail alayhi salam, you can see how the relationship of the father and the son is such that the son has the same equal amount of trust in Allah and trust in Allah's commandments, in the taqwa, and the ita'at, the following of Allah, as his dad, as his father does. He says that, listen, you'll see me as the patient ones. If Allah is commanding you to do it, then there's nothing we can do. You'll see me as the patient one, and if Allah pleases, He will accept our sacrifice that we are doing. So you see, this is an important event that happens on this day of the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, which is known as Eid al-Adha now. The sacrifice of Nabi Ibrahim and the way he shows his taqwa to Allah, the belief in Allah that he has, is a very important aspect of the day of Eid al-Adha. And that relationship that the father and the son have, where the son is ready to do anything that his father is commanding him to, because it is the commandment of Allah. Allah wills it to happen. So the prophets, the Aimah, the Imams also of Allah cannot go against it, just as we can't. So they know that this sacrifice has to happen. This day is so significant because look how Allah now, even in the Quran, tells him. Allah tells them that you obeyed us so much that we rewarded you. You are the ones who we have rewarded. And what happens on this day? You see that when Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam goes to the altar, where he goes to the place to sacrifice Ismail, you see that when he goes to take that knife and put it across the throat of Ismail, there's a ram that comes, the animal that comes in the place of Ismail. And that is how Allah showers His blessing on Ibrahim. He saves Ismail from that sacrifice, and He saves Ibrahim from that test. Because Ibrahim had so much belief in Allah, he had that blindfold in his eyes, and now you see Allah removes Ismail from that place and places the ram to show Ibrahim that, look, this is how we were going to reward you, because you believed in our commandments. You see, on this day of Eid al-Adha, we have these lessons that we can learn. For example, having trust in Allah and whatever He commands us to do, believing in Allah whenever and any moment in our lives, and having that 100% trust in Allah that He's always looking after us. You can see that during the sacrifice of Nabi Ibrahim, where Allah brings that ram, that animal, in front of Ibrahim instead of Ismail. Many lessons. You see the trust that the son has in his father and Allah. And there's many things that we are commanded to do on this day. For example, those who have the blessing of going to Hajj, where Allah has blessed them for an opportunity to visit His holy house, you see that there's a commandment, there's wajib for them to go to Mina and do this sacrifice. As you say in Urdu, you have Qurbani. This act has to happen for the Haji or the Hajj, those who are performing Hajj. So this is one of the things you do on the day of Eid al-Adha. Other acts such as the ziyarah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, you have a lot of ghusl, you have the salah of Eid, just as you do of Eid al-Fitr, you have Eid al-Adha. Is another act that you do on this day of Eid, because this day is a day of joy and it's a joyous day for us, inshallah.
MashaAllah, Brother Hassan. We often hear in majalis that Allah converted Hazrat Ibrahim's sacrifice into Zebedee. Can you enlighten us? What is Zebedee?
The Zebedee that happens during this event of the sacrifices that Nabi Ibrahim has to do of Nabi Ismail can be explained as such. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran in Surah Safat, which is the 37th chapter, verse 106 and 107, says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْهٍ عَظِيمٍ. The translation is, and we ransomed him with a great sacrifice. The great scholar Syed Akhtar Rizvi, in his book, explains this in one of his books about what is the Zebedee. He uses the explanation of Allama Majlisi. There's many theories that he discusses. If anyone would like to look at it, inshallah, you can go on alislam.org to research more about this and look at the findings of the Allama, of the scholar, and of also Allama Majlisi. So what is the Zebedee then? They say that Allama Majlisi says that the Zebedee is Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. He says that Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the chief of the martyrs, Sayyid al-Shuhada, is the cause of the ransom itself. This is Allama Majlisi's point of view. It can be found in Bihar al-Anwar. He says that this ransom, so then he says the cause of this ransom itself is what? Is Sayyid al-Shuhada. And in his view, it's the connotation of this ransom. This verse is the connotation of that. That verse that we recited, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبٍ عَظِيمٍ, is the connotation of that ransom itself. So Imam Hussain alayhi salam, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, is the Zebedee Azim. What does he mean by this? He says that by saving Ismail, by ransoming him, because the chief of the martyrs, Abdullah, was supposed to appear in the progeny of Ismail. So by saving Ismail, Allama Majlisi is saying, by bringing that animal there, when Nabi Ibrahim is sacrificing him, instead of sacrificing Ismail, he sacrifices the animal. Allama Majlisi is saying that this event was supposed to happen. This event of the Shahada of Abdullah was going to happen. So this is the connotation. And he continues, he says that sacrifice, that Zebedee Azim, which is the event of Karbala that happened to Sayyid al-Shuhada, is what the connotation of this ayat. And he says that, but also a problem arises because there's many, Allama Majlisi says that there's many other prophets from the line of Bani Israel were killed. As the Quran says, and they kill the prophets unjustly. So their problem arises now. In the book that Allama is explaining that there was also different prophets who were sacrificed by the hands of the oppressors. What does this mean then? If from the line of Ismail there's prophets who were slaughtered, many prophets of Bani Israel were killed, then how is this the connotation? So you see that then why is it, they say, the only reason that Imam al-Hussein can be the one who is the evidence of this verse. But when you study, and by studying the words of the verse, it becomes clear that this does not merely denote the killing of an innocent soul. When you study the ayat, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ فِي ذِبٍ عَظِيمٍ, it is not just saying it is the innocent soul who is being slaughtered in the way of Allah. It's saying that this condition, this sacrifice is so big, the Zebedee Azim, it is so grave and is so big that it's not just any regular sacrifice. It is a very huge sacrifice. This is why it is known as the sacrifice of Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam. Because the sacrifice has to have special conditions. That's why it's the Zebedee Azim. So it is obvious that there is no proof that could be given that these other sacrifices were such big. The only one that is comparable is the sacrifice of Nabi Yahya, where his head was provided to the king of the time. But even then, another rebuttal to that, when people say that Nabi Yahya's head was also, it could be considered a Zebedee Azim. But the head of Nabi Yahya, that situation also can be understood in the following way. Allama Majlisi shows that the great sacrifice was to occur in the progeny of Nabi Ismail. So it is not connected to anyone from Bani Israel, it had to happen from that progeny. That is why it had to happen from the progeny of Ismail, not from Bani Israel. So any prophet from the lineage of Israel could not be accepted in this criteria of the Zebedee Azim. It had to be the progeny of Ismail, is what Allama Majlisi says. So to help you understand again, this sacrifice, according to Allama Majlisi, cannot come from the progeny of from Bani Israel. It has to come from the lineage of Ismail, the son of Ibrahim. That's why he says Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam is the connotation of this ayat, is the explanation of this ayat of Zebedee Azim. The sacrifice of Nabi Yahya does not come from that lineage, even though it's so grave, his head is cut off. But the way that the Mazloom Imam had to be sacrificed, he is understood to be known as that Zebedee Azim, that great sacrifice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in the Quran. That He is saying that we have ransomed this big sacrifice, Zebedee Azim, which is the sacrifice of Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam.
MashaAllah, you explained it beautifully. I have a question. Is it wajib on every Muslim to buy an animal for sacrifice?
When we look at the event of the sacrifice or the qurbani, as you say, on the day of Eid al-Adha, If you look at those, as I said earlier, those who go to Hajj or perform that Hajj and who have been blessed with the opportunity to go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and perform the Hajj, it is wajib on them, obligatory on them to do this sacrifice on Mina, as I said. So it's not wajib for every Muslim. It is only wajib for those who go and perform the Hajj. For those who are left and Allah, they did not get the opportunity to go, may Allah give all those who are wishing to go to Hajj an opportunity, inshallah. Those who do not go, it is a recommended act, it's a mustahabat to go and sacrifice the animal if you can, and to make this sacrifice by remembering the sacrifice of Nabi Ibrahim. You do the sacrifice yourself of that animal. So then again, those who have been blessed with the opportunity of going, yes, it is obligatory and wajib for them to do this sacrifice on Mina during their Hajj. But for those who did not get the opportunity and did not go, for the rest of the Muslims, it is mustahab, is a recommended act to sacrifice that animal. And when you're sacrificing it, you remember that sacrifice of Nabi Ibrahim, and it helps you grow in tawakkul and ita'at and belief in Allah and strengthen your relationship with Allah, inshallah.
So as we discussed, the meat has to be divided into 3 parts: relatives, friends, and the needy. But living abroad, it is difficult for us to find a Muslim person who really deserves this donation of meat. What should we do then?
When the question arises of where should we give this meat, or where should we give this meat of the qurbani, as you know, it should be given to the relatives, to the friends and the needy. When the question arises of where should we give to the needy, who can we trust here? Who is a Muslim who is needy here in the West that we live in? Where can we find such people? Back home in countries that are struggling, you can see in Pakistan or Yemen, in Syria, in Palestine, in these countries that are having trouble, in Iraq, where orphans are, we can definitely, it's easier to send it there. But also here, if you look at, there's agencies such as Islamic Relief Canada, you have Zahra Trust that you have these agencies that you can reach out to. For example, Islamic Relief, as I mentioned, is a trustable organization that you could, either give money for your qurbani that you want to do, or you could also go to other organizations that you can find that even in these other countries that I mentioned, in Pakistan, in these countries that have, poor people, needy people. If you can find trustable people there in the organizations, then you can send it there. That is another place that you can send it. So this donation, like I said, you could find, for example, Islamic Relief here in Canada. There's Penny Appeal, another website. These are organizations that are here in the West that are doing the service for you, and they're trustable. Always do your own research, check that, call them, as the money is a qurbani that I'm doing it in the way of Allah to feed these needy people. Is it going in the right place? Is it going where I need to go? And when you see that Islamic Relief, when you look at their initiatives, you'll see that they are definitely working hard to make sure that this goes where it needs to go. So this meat that has to be divided, when you need to give it to the needy, and trying to find that person who is yatim, or that orphan, or that poor person to get the food to, you have organizations that are set up here that are ready to help you out. You give that money of your qurbani here, back wherever you live. If you know a trustable organization, I mentioned these few organizations that are here in the West that you can reach out to, and they can help you. And they're doing tremendous work. They're doing a tremendous job, and they're doing tremendous work in helping those yatim, and helping those zaif people, those orphans, those weak people who need help. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease their burden, inshallah. And it is events like this, like the day of Eid al-Adha, where we remember sacrifice, and remember how much these children, these young children, these families are suffering. So we have these organizations where we can give to the needy, and they can benefit from it, inshallah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts our efforts when we do this qurbani, inshallah, when we do this sacrifice, and when we give to the needy, so that we can be those who are remembered as those who helped the orphans, who helped those who were less fortunate than us. So inshallah, always reach out to your organizations and make sure that you are verifying that wherever they are providing their services are credible places and places of need, and always do your research. But those are 3 websites that you can access, 3 organizations that I mentioned: Islamic Relief, Penny Appeal, and you can see that they are providing services for you so that it can make your daily lives easier in this matter, so you don't have to worry too much. So inshallah, that is one way we can help those needy brothers and sisters, those families of ours, and do the most that we can to strive in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah.
Thank you, Brother Hassan. And yes, you are right about that.
Jazakallah. And with that, we conclude our show. Thank you for watching Youth Corner on Qaim TV. Eid Mubarak.
कोई भी न खाली गया, तू है शाह ज़मन, तू है शाह हुदा, तू है शाह ज़मन, तू है शाह हुदा। कर मुझे भी खजाने से अपने अता, कर मुझे भी खजाने से अपने अता। या इमाम रज़ा, या इमाम रज़ा, अस्सलाम 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 अस्सलाम।